welcome back to Lesson 7, Ordering Integers and Other Rational Numbers. Today you'll learn how to place whole numbers and decimals on a number line, and you'll also know how to order them from least to greatest and then from greatest to least. So let's get started right away. So look on your paper at exercise 1. Exercise 1 tells us to graph the number 7 and its opposite on the number line. Then it tells you to graph the number 5 and its opposite on the number line. So Caleb, how many numbers are we graphing?
We are graphing 19 numbers.
Are we graphing 19 numbers? They told me to graph the number 7 and its opposite, and then the number 5 and its opposite. So how many numbers are we graphing on the number line?
We are graphing 4 numbers on our number line.
4 numbers. Alright, so first we're going to start with the number 7. Positive 7. So I'm going to put a dot. To graph this number, it means to put a dot on that number. So I'm going to put a dot on 7. Positive 7. And then it told me to find its
Opposite.
opposite. So I need to put a dot where?
Negative 7.
On the negative 7, which is here, okay? So I have a dot on the positive 7, and its opposite is negative 7. So I have a dot there. I have 2 more numbers that I need to graph. Next it tells me to graph the number 5 and its opposite. So where should my next dot go?
And the next dot should go on the positive 5.
On the positive 5. Good job. So I'm going to put a dot on the positive 5. And then I need to do the opposite of a positive 5, which is
A negative 5.
a negative 5. Caleb, do you know why these numbers are opposites?
Because they are the same number, they're the same distance away from 0.
They are the same amount of units or the same distance away from 0. So if I count from 0, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It takes me 5 units to get to a negative 5. If I start back at 0 and count, this will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It only takes me 5 units to get to the positive 5. So that's why they're considered opposites. Now that we've done A, let's put a check mark beside it to let us know that A is complete. Okay? So let's move on to B. B says, where does 7 lie in relation to 5 on the number line? So I have 2 numbers I need to look at. What 2 numbers are those?
7, positive 7, and positive 5.
Positive 7, which is located here. Put a little line under it so you see where 7 is. And then positive 5 is here. We're going to put a line under so we see where that is located. So when they're asking you where does 7 lie in relation to 5, they're basically asking you what position is 7 in versus the 5, okay? So they want to know which direction is the 7 going in as it relates to the 5. Alright, so where does 7 lie in relation to the 5? So is 7 to the right of the 5 or to the left of the 5?
7 is to the right of the 5.
Right, so here's our 5, and the 7 is going to the
Right.
right of the 5. So when they ask you this question, where does 7 lie in relation to the 5 on the number line? You're simply going to tell them that 7 lies to the right of 5 on the what?
On the number line.
That's all you need to write for B. 7 lies to the right of 5 on the number line. Alright, now here's C. C gets a little tricky, but you can do it if you look at your number line. So C says, where does the opposite of 7 lie on the number line in relation to the opposite of 5? What 2 numbers are they talking about this time?
They are talking about the opposite of 7 and the opposite of 5.
So what is the opposite of 7?
Negative 7.
So they want us to look at a what here?
And, opposite
Which is a negative what?
7.
Negative 7. And then the opposite of 5 would be a what?
A negative 5.
So those are the 2 numbers that we're looking at this time. So I'm going to put a line under these 2 numbers. Negative 7 and negative 5. So this time it says, where does the opposite of 7 lie in relationship to the opposite of 5? So here's where 7 is. Where does that 5 lie in relation to this negative 7?
The 5 is to the right of negative 7.
So it says, where does the opposite of 7 lie on the number line in relationship to the 5? So this time we need to look at the 5. Now, where would that 7 be in relationship to this 5?
To the left.
It's going to be to the left, and I know that because if I draw this line, this 7 is going to the what?
It's going to the left.
To the left. So when I respond to this, I'm going to say the opposite of positive 7 lies to the left of the opposite of positive 5. Okay? So you just use the sentence to respond to this question, okay? Make sure that you restate the sentence. It says, where does the opposite of 7? The opposite of 7 is this negative 7, okay? That's why I can say the opposite of 7. The opposite of a positive 7 is a what?
Negative 7.
Negative 7. Now, if you can't get all fancy like that, then you could just simply say, negative 7 lies to the left of negative 5. If that's easier for you to understand, well, negative 5 lies to the left of negative 7. If that's easier for you to understand, you can write it like that, and I'm fine with that, okay? So now we're going to move into example 1. Track the paper. We just completed exercise 1. If you go on down, you'll see example 1. So example 1 says, the record low temperature for a town in Maine are what?
Negative 20 degrees. No, it's 20 degrees below 0.
Alright, so the record low temperature for a town in Maine are negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit for January and negative 19 degrees Fahrenheit for what?
February.
For February. They just simply want us to order the numbers from
Least to greatest.
least to greatest. So, if I'm ordering from least to greatest, the word least means my what number?
Smallest numbers.
Smallest number to my what?
Larger.
Smallest number to my largest number. Well, here's what I know. In January, the temperature was what?
It was 20 degrees.
Negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit. And then in February, the temperature was what?
Negative 19 degrees in February.
Negative 19 degrees Fahrenheit. So I have to decide which one is least and which one is my greatest number. All right, so you can do that by simply using a what?
The number line.
A number line. So I'm going to make a number line here. And you should do the same thing on your paper. Okay? I'm going to have 0 down here. And since I'm only dealing with negative numbers, I'm only going to deal with the negative side of the number line. Okay? So I'm going to be going to the left of 0. So you don't necessarily have to start at 1. But I'm going to start at 1 just so that you can see what it looks like. 5, negative 6, negative 7. What can you tell me about the further I get away from 0? What happens, Caleb?
The smaller the numbers get.
The further I get away from that 0, the smaller the numbers get. 16, negative 17, negative 18. How far do I have to go?
So negative 20.
Negative 19, negative 20. All right, then make sure you put your little tick marks here because we're dealing with the number line. All right, so now let's plot or graph these points. So I have in January is negative 20. So what should I have on negative 20?
You should have January.
I should have a what?
You should have a dot.
A dot on negative 20, which is right here, okay? Then in February, the temperature was what?
Negative 19 degrees.
Negative 19, so I should have a dot there. So here's what Caleb told us. He said, the further we get away from 0, the smaller our number gets, right? So if I look at negative 19 and I look at negative 20, which number is closer to 0?
Negative 19.
So that means that negative 19 is closer to the 0. So it is my
least number.
Greatest number. So when the number is closer to 0, the numbers that you are comparing, whichever one is closer to 0, that's your greatest number, okay? So I'm comparing negative 19 and 20. The one that's closer is your greatest number. All right, so negative 19 will be my greatest number because it's closer to what?
0.
Because it's closer to 0. And 20 would be my negative 20 would be my
least number.
Least number because it is Further away from my
0.
further away from my 0. Now, we're going to talk about something called an inequality symbol. So, a lot of you have already heard of it, but you don't know what it's called, okay? So, it's called an inequality symbol. So, if I wanted to write this in an inequality statement, all I have to do is say negative 19 is what? The negative 20.
Is greater than
Yeah. So I'm going to put a box
negative
here.
20.
So negative 19 is blank than negative 20. And you said it's what?
Greater than.
Greater than. So here's what a greater than symbol looks like. It means the mouth is open towards the bigger number. So negative 19 is greater than negative 20. And I can see that by looking at my number line, because the closer the number is to 0, the greater it is. The further away from 0 it is, the least it is, okay? So here are inequality symbols. This is greater than. Put this on your paper in your notes. Greater than. And here's what less than looks like. Make sure you kind of zoom into those so they see. These are called inequality symbols. This is greater than, less than, okay? And then you'll learn about some more in other lessons. But this is what I want to see. I want to see a number line on your paper. I want to see where you compared it using an inequality symbol. And make sure that you have these notes on your packet. All right, let's turn the page. So on the next page is exercises 2 through 4. I'm going to go through number 2 with you, and then I'm going to let you complete numbers 3 and 4 by yourself, okay? But I'm going to explain 3 and 4 just a little bit. So let's look at number 2. The directions read, for each problem, order the rational numbers from least to greatest by first reading the problem. Then drawing a number line diagram, and finally explaining your answer. So let's start on number 2. So John's time for running the mile in gym class is 9.2 minutes. Jackie's time is 9.18 minutes. Who ran the mile in less time? So this time we're looking for the what?
Looking for the least number.
We're looking for the least number because we want to see who ran the mile the fastest, right? In the smallest amount of time. So we have 2 numbers that we're comparing. This time, are they positive or negative?
They're positive.
They're positive, right? So we're looking for the person who ran the mile in the least amount of time. So what are our 2 numbers we have?
Our 2 numbers are 9.2.
And who ran that, John or Jackie?
John.
So John ran his in 9.2 minutes. And Jackie ran hers at what time?
Jackie ran hers in 9.18 minutes.
9.18 minutes. So if I was thinking about money, 9.2 is the same as what?
$9.20.
This is like $9.20. And this one is like $9 and what?
18 cents.
Okay, this is just giving you a way to think about which decimal is larger and which one is smaller. Okay? So who has the least amount of money?
Jackie has the least amount of money.
Jackie has the least amount of money. Who has the most money?
John.
John has the most money because this is the greater amount, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all I did here was add a 0 behind it, and behind the 2 does not change the value. So I could also just take this now and figure out, well, if Jackie had the least amount of money, that must mean she had the least what?
The least time.
The least time that was ran, right? So if you compare this like it's money, you can easily see which one is smaller and which one is what?
Greater.
Which one is greater. So who ran it in the least amount of time?
Jackie.
Jackie ran it the fastest because it took her the least amount of time to run those miles. Now, but they want you to show it on a what?
A number line.
On a number line, but I already know who ran it the fastest, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's do our number line so we can show the same thing. So I have a number line. I'm going to start with 0. And I'm only going to use positive numbers this time because, why? Why would I only use positive numbers?
Because both of the numbers are positive.
Both of my numbers are positive, so I don't necessarily need the negative side unless I just want to see it. Okay, so I'm going to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and now I'll go to 10. Why did I go to 10? Why would I go to 10?
Because both numbers are greater than 9, so you will need another number to plot them.
Right. All right, so I'm trying to put 9.18 on the number line, right? So would 9.18 be closer to 9 or closer to the 10?
Closer to 9.
Closer to 9 because this is like $9.18. That means that I really only have a roughly $9, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I put this dot on the number line, I'm going to make sure that it's closer to the what?
Closer to the 9.
Closer to my 9. Okay, so it'll be about right here. We're going to label that as 9.18 so that we know that this dot represents Jackie's. All right, and then $9.20, where does it have to fall?
It will have to go after the 9.18.
It's going to have to go a little bit behind this because it's more, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just a little bit though because it's just 2 cents more, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then this dot will represent 9.2, which is John's time that he ran. So in this case, since I'm looking for the least amount of time, I'm looking for the one that's closer to the what?
9.
Closer to
Closer to the 0.
Closer to the 0. So which one had the least amount of time again?
Jackie.
Jackie. So whether you look at this like it's money or whether you look at it in its relationship to 0, you can figure out which one is least or which one is what?
Greatest.
Which one is greater. Alright, so make sure that you do that on number 2. And make sure that you answer who ran the mile in the least amount of time. Make sure that you state that Jackie ran the mile in the least amount of time. And just explain your answer with the number line. Okay?
Okay.
In number 2, you have a situation dealing with the teacher and some points given to students. You're going to do the exact same thing using the number line. It looks as if you have to plot points on -2, -2.5, and which student, student A or student B, performed worse on the test. So worse means that they're going to be further away from what number?
The 0.
Which student was further away from the 0 is what you're going to have to answer. But I'm not going to tell you which student it was. So you're going to have to draw your number line. Since it's negative numbers, make sure that you look to see which number is further away from 0, because that'll be the student that did the worst. Alright, in number 4, you have a fraction. Alright, but there are 2 fractions that you're used to working with. So in number 4, you have 8 1/4. And also in number 4, you have 3 1/2. So we want to know which fish is swimming farther beneath the water surface. So first, I would change this fraction to a what?
You would change that fraction into a...
Or you don't even have to change it to a decimal because we talked about scales on a number line. So here's what that means. So I know for my small group people and for some of the other teachers, they've been covering scales with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here's what that could look like. Let's say that I'll say that this is 8 and the next number is 9. Let's say I have 3 little tick marks in between. So if I count my spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4, what does each one of these tick marks represent?
4th.
A 4. So this is like saying 8 1/4, 8
2/4.
2/4, or 8 1/2, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I simplified it. And then 8 3/4, and then what?
9.
9, right? So then if I went back a little bit further, down here somewhere, you'll have 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then this will be 3. You have 3 little tick marks. So 3 and what?
3 1/4.
3 1/4.
3 2/4, or 3 1/2.
3 2/4, or 3 1/2.
3 3/4.
3 3/4, and then what?
4.
4. Of course, you have to fill in the rest of these numbers with the appropriate scales. But this is one way that you can do it, and make sure that you put a dot on 3 1/2, which is here. Put your dot on 8 1/2, which is here. Okay, and then tell which one is, what are we looking for on this one? Further beneath the water surface. So farther beneath the water surface means that it has to be the one that's the what?
That's the greatest.
That's the greatest.
Yeah.
Yep, that's the greatest distance going, and these numbers should have been negative because they said the word what?
Below.
Beneath. Alright, so I didn't put my negatives, but make sure that yours is negative, okay? So when you're talking about it, so it should be the other way around. Alright, so that's all on that. Number 2 through 4, that should take you through that. Again, make sure number 4, the numbers are negative and it's going in the opposite direction, so that you can display that. Go to example 2. Look at example 2. In example 2, you're simply telling who came in last place. You're going to use a number line to model it, just like we did in the last example. You're given numbers. Make sure that you put the name above the numbers on the number line, as well as a dot on those numbers, so that you can see who came in first or last place. Go to number 5. Turn the page for me. Alright, on the next part, you're doing the exact same thing for 5 and 6. Make sure that you use your number line so you can tell who came in first place, who won, or who came in last place. Use a number line to justify your answers. In closing, it says user teaches verbal cues and this number line to determine which number is larger. So on that part, I'm going to just give you some questions at the end for our closing so that you can tell me which number is larger. Turn it over on the problem set. On the problem set, you're given the table here. In column 1, they give you some rational numbers. Here you can tell that a rational number could possibly be a what?
Either a negative number or a positive number.
Alright, it's going to be negative or positive. It can be a fraction.
Or a whole number.
A whole number. A mixed number. Now these decimals have to be terminating, meaning they end. They don't keep repeating on and on and on. They can repeat, but it would have to be like with a certain number, okay? So they have to be terminating, meaning they stop, okay? Or it has to be a fraction, mixed number, or a whole number. Those will be called rational numbers. So you're going to order the rational numbers from least to greatest in the second column. Those 2 numbers that you see, put them in order from least to greatest. Then you're going to tell what their opposites are in the third column. In the last column, you're going to tell what the opposites ordered from least to greatest are. So then you'll look at the opposite column on column 3. And in column 4, you'll put those opposites in order from least to greatest. If you have any questions about this, make sure you see your small group teacher. You should know who your small group teacher is by now so that you can get assistance with lesson 7. Thank you for your time. Work hard now on the check for understanding and the exit ticket.